The laughter in the studio was almost deafening. The late-night host leaned over his desk, clutching his sides, while Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez sat poised, her confidence radiating through the cameras. "Stephen Miller," she repeated with a smirk. "He's like if a Halloween clown and a used car salesman had a kid who stopped growing at 4'10". The audience howled. Even the host covered his mouth, pretending to suppress a laugh. The joke landed perfectly, too perfectly. Within minutes of airing, the clip hit every social platform imaginable. Memes popped up. Parody accounts were created. The phrase, 4'10" clown, trended across X, TikTok, and YouTube. Backstage, producers were ecstatic. "You just broke the internet again," one whispered as AOC scrolled through her mentions, smiling at the chaos she'd unleashed. For her, it was another night of sharp political theater, a bit of humor at a rival's expense. But outside that bubble, the tone wasn't landing the same way. Some found it hilarious, others saw it as cruel. Hundreds of miles away, in his Senate office in D.C., JD Vance watched the same clip play out on his phone. The screen flickered as he replayed it, eyes narrowing each time. "This isn't politics anymore," he said finally, placing the phone down. "It's mockery. Just a game to them." His aide hesitated. "Sir, it's going viral. You might want to stay out of it." Vance shook his head. "No, someone has to call it out." He opened X and typed, "Leadership isn't about who can insult better. It's about who can lead better. Our country deserves more than circus acts in Congress." The post went live. Within 10 minutes, it had tens of thousands of likes. People across the political spectrum began to share it, not because they agreed with Vance's politics, but because they agreed with his point. By midnight, conservative talk shows were already quoting him. "JD Vance just said what everyone's been afraid to say," one commentator declared. "This constant ridicule, it's poisoning everything." The following morning, Vance was invited onto Good Morning America. When the host asked if he was being too sensitive, he met her gaze steadily. "Mocking someone's height or appearance doesn't make you witty," he said. "It makes you small. We need more decency in public life." For the first time in a long while, the audience didn't clap for comedy, they clapped for conviction. The next morning, the media landscape was electric. News anchors debated whether JD Vance's reaction had been a moral stand or political grandstanding. Cable panels buzzed with clips from his interview, replaying his now viral line, "Mock a man's height if you want, but that won't lift your own." Some called it poetic, others accused him of being overly dramatic. But one thing was clear, he had shifted the conversation. AOC, never one to stay quiet, fired back on X. "When you defend clowns, don't be surprised when you end up in the circus." The post shot to the top of trending lists, sparking another wave of memes. Her supporters laughed, her critics groaned. It seemed like the endless cycle of political pettiness would continue, until Stephen Miller himself decided to step in. In an unexpected Fox News appearance, Miller leaned forward in his chair and said calmly, "Look, I've been insulted before. I don't lose sleep over jokes. But I'll say this, Senator Vance showed something we don't see much anymore, basic decency. I respect that." His words stunned viewers. Even the host looked surprised. It wasn't a political counterattack. It was grace, quiet and deliberate. And it completely flipped the narrative. Within hours, headlines across major outlets read, "Stephen Miller thanks JD Vance for defending civility." AOC's earlier tweet suddenly looked out of place, even childish. Talk shows that once celebrated her sharp wit now questioned whether she had crossed a line. The same audiences that had laughed at her joke now found themselves reconsidering what it meant to win an argument. A few days later, a short clip from a high school civics class went viral. A teacher played both AOC's joke and JD's response. Afterward, one teenage girl raised her hand and said softly, "Maybe politics isn't supposed to be funny. Maybe it's supposed to be serious." That simple remark hit millions of views. In Washington, JD Vance noticed the shift but didn't gloat. Walking through the marble halls of the Capitol late one evening, a reporter called after him, "Senator, do you feel vindicated?" He paused, turned slightly, and said, "No. I just hope people remember. Mockery fades fast, but integrity lasts longer." Then he walked away, the echo of his footsteps fading into the silence of the night. Even his critics couldn't help but admit, this time, he'd won without saying a word too loud. Eleanor couldn't stop staring. The world was overwhelming, more vivid and beautiful than she had ever imagined. Sunlight streamed through the windows, scattering patterns on the polished marble floors. Every shadow, every shimmer, every reflection seemed alive, as if the mansion itself were breathing. Colors she had only imagined in stories now danced before her eyes. The deep green of the garden, the soft gold of the chandelier, the crimson of the rose Amara still held in her hand. Her mind reeled with disbelief. It's real," she whispered, touching her fingertips to the sunlight pouring in. "I thought I'd only ever feel the world, and now I can see it. I can really see it." Amara knelt beside her, brushing back Eleanor's hair. "You can see, Eleanor. And nothing can take that from you." But Eleanor's excitement was tinged with fear. "Father, why didn't you tell me?" Richard stepped closer, shoulders heavy with years of guilt. "I thought I was protecting you. Every day I convinced myself that keeping the truth from you was the only way to keep you safe. But maybe I was wrong." Eleanor looked at him, her heart aching with a mix of love and anger. "You kept my life from me, my vision, my freedom." "I know," he said quietly. "And I can never undo the years of darkness I forced upon you. But now you have a chance to see everything for yourself." Eleanor's gaze wandered around the room, absorbing every detail. The intricate carvings on the staircase, the sunlight glinting off the crystal chandeliers, the portraits of ancestors she had never imagined in color. Her mind raced with questions. How many other things had she been kept from? How many memories had been hidden, waiting for her eyes to awaken? Amara spoke softly, sensing Eleanor's overwhelm. "We'll take it one step at a time. The world is vast, but you're not alone. You have your father, and you have me." Eleanor reached for Amara's hand, squeezing it tightly. "I want to see everything. The gardens, the city, the oceans. I want to experience life the way it was meant to be seen." Richard swallowed hard, emotions warring within him. "Then we'll do it together. No more lies. No more secrets." For the first time in her life, Eleanor felt truly free. The sun warmed her face as if it were welcoming her into a new world. A world full of possibilities, full of colors she had never dreamed of. With Amara at her side and her father finally honest with her, Eleanor stepped forward into the light, ready to reclaim the life that had been stolen from her. The mansion that had once felt like a gilded cage now seemed like a doorway to a life she had only just begun to see. And for the first time, Eleanor smiled without restraint, because she could finally see, and the world was hers to explore. Weeks later, the wave JD Vance had ignited began reshaping Washington. Committees that had long been dormant were suddenly active, filing subpoenas and demanding accountability from the most powerful agencies in the country. The Integrity Act, that once seemed like an idealistic dream, was now gathering bipartisan support. But for every ally Vance gained, a new enemy emerged in the shadows, men and women who had built their careers on secrecy, not sunlight. Late one evening, as the Senate prepared for another heated session, Vance received a message slipped under his office door. It wasn't signed, but the words were chilling. Stop before it's too late. You've made powerful enemies. His aides urged him to increase his security, but Vance refused to back down. If I let fear dictate my choices, he said, then everything we fought for means nothing. Meanwhile, Judge Barrett's reputation continued to evolve. Once seen as an adversary to Vance, she had quietly become one of his strongest supporters behind closed doors. She had begun pushing for judicial reform, suggesting that judges be insulated from political pressures and protected from external influence. Her colleagues were divided. Some admired her courage, others whispered that she was betraying the establishment. Yet she pressed on, saying only, justice must never serve power, it must correct it. The day of the vote arrived. The Senate chamber was packed, cameras rolling as the Integrity Act came to the floor. Senators shifted uneasily in their seats. No one wanted to be caught on the wrong side of history. As JD Vance rose to speak, the murmurs fell silent. I stand here not as a Republican or Democrat, he began, but as an American who believes truth doesn't belong to one party. It belongs to all of us. If this bill fails, it won't be because justice was wrong, it'll be because courage was missing. When the vote was called, the entire nation watched in suspense. One by one, the results flashed on the screen, ayes and nays nearly tied. Then, at the last moment, a few unexpected votes broke the deadlock. The Integrity Act passed. The chamber erupted. Reporters flooded the aisles, and Vance stood motionless, stunned by the victory. Outside, the crowd waiting on the Capitol steps cheered until their voices echoed across the night sky. For the first time in years, America had chosen courage over silence. The handshake between JD Vance and AOC might have seemed small, a fleeting moment between two rivals, but for those who witnessed it, it was symbolic. In an era where political grudges fueled careers, that gesture carried a rare weight. Word of it quietly spread through Washington. A reporter who saw the exchange whispered to a colleague, "Did that really just happen?" The colleague nodded, "Yeah, and for the first time in a long time, it looked real." In the days that followed, the ripple effect grew. Editorial headlines shifted tone. AOC and Vance showed a glimpse of bipartisan humanity, and, when decency crossed the aisle. People were tired of performative outrage, and this moment gave them something they hadn't seen in years: hope. Talk radio hosts debated whether it was a political stunt or genuine reconciliation, but most agreed it had changed the national mood. JD Vance, for his part, didn't boast about it. When asked by a journalist about the handshake, he simply said, "Respect shouldn't make headlines, it should be normal." That single line became one of the most quoted sentences of the year. Behind the scenes, something even more unexpected began happening. Staffers from both offices, AOC's and JD's, started to communicate more often. They found common ground on small issues: affordable housing reforms, mental health initiatives, and veteran reintegration programs. What started as polite collaboration turned into tangible progress. AOC privately admitted to her team, "Maybe we can fight for the same people, even if we see the world differently." A month later, the two co-sponsored a bipartisan bill aimed at improving transparency in government social spending. The bill itself wasn't revolutionary, but the fact that they had written it together made it historic. The media dubbed it the Unity Act. When they appeared side by side to announce it, reporters expected tension or awkward smiles. Instead, they saw something genuine: mutual respect. AOC spoke first. "We won't agree on everything, but we can agree that our country deserves better." JD added, "Politics isn't about destroying your opponent, it's about building something that lasts longer than your argument." The press conference ended in applause. Not the polite kind, but real, heartfelt applause. That night, on social media, Someone wrote, "Maybe this is how America heals, one unexpected handshake at a time." The post went viral, and for once, it wasn't because people were angry, it was because they believed again.